We're talking about teens talk and parents listen.
Mm-hmm.
That's ideal. That's the it's important that it takes that route.
Yeah, that wouldn't be ideal, because normally it's parents who are supposed to be speaking and then teens listening.
Mm-hmm.
But this is my message to teenagers and parents of teenagers for the year 2023, as we're coming to a close to the year 2022. So, what I've realized is that there are assumptions on both sides of the coin. So teens have got their own assumptions about parents. So they have this stereotype against parents. They say parents do not understand. They're judgmental.
They don't understand. They don't.
Yeah, you say it the way they say it. So, but not every parent is like that. Some parents actually are willing to listen and they want you to talk. But because you as teenagers have that stereotype against them, you're never even going to make an effort to talk to your parents, to open up to them. And then on the other side, parents also have the stereotype against teenagers. They say teenagers do not want to listen and do not want to open up. But it's not every teenager who's like that. Some teenagers have actually talked about are yearning for that space, for that opportunity to be able to open up, to actually tell their parents what's going on in their lives, because they actually need help. But because parents already have this stereotype against them, they're never even going to make an effort to listen. So today, my message to teenagers is that open up, talk. It's important to talk, because as you talk, you will be able to get the emotions off your chest, and you'll be able to see things in different perspectives, and also get an opportunity to take from the wisdom of your parents. And parents, listen. We are living in the 21st century, and what I want to let you know is that there are challenges that teenagers are facing currently that never existed during your time. So you actually don't understand what they're going through. You may think because you've been a teenager, you understand what they're going through, you understand all their challenges, but you do not, because there are some that are new, that came as a result of technology, that came as a result of the internet, something that you did not grow up with. So for that reason, it's important for you to listen so that you actually understand what they're going through. And once you understand, then you will be able to guide them accordingly. You'll be able to give them wisdom. There's a story, I think I've shared it before here on air, but I want to share it again. It will just help us understand where I'm headed, what the message that I'm trying to put out there. So there was this girl who had a very sweet relationship with her mom. They would talk about everything else, but they had one topic that was just taboo, and that was sex and dating. They wouldn't talk about that. They'll talk about everything else. The relationship was okay, but then because they were not talking about this particular topic, she started dating, obviously underground. It's something that they wouldn't talk about. So she would date. She started in high school, and then now she was in college. She had just started college. She was now 18. Mm-hmm. And then that's when she became sexually active. And what then happened was she was in Zambia for uni, and then she got pregnant. You know how it is sometimes if you've grown up in kind of a cocoon, and then now for the first time you've got all this freedom. Sometimes you may then use it irresponsibly. So anyway, that's what happened. She realizes she's pregnant. So realizing that she had this sweet relationship with the mom and she had this good girl image at home, she couldn't dare open up to the parents. She didn't want to talk to them about it, and also it's not a subject that they'd ever discussed. So what does she do? She makes plans. She decides to take part of the fees, and then she comes back to Zim. She gets an abortion here in Zim. She goes back to school, and all this is happening, and the parents,
they're not aware.
They're not aware.
They're thinking she is still in school.
Yeah, they're thinking she is still in school. So she comes back. There were complications, and she had to deal with all of this alone. And she went back to school. She hasn't paid fees. She's now getting into trouble. She has to make up a lot of lies. So this was a good girl who, because of this incident, had now turned to being a bad girl. Because you know what happens is when you make a mistake and then you make another in trying to cover up for that other mistake, you may end up lying, and then the lies keep piling up, and you then end up being like a real bad girl. So anyway, cut the long story short, the parents only discovered that she had missed like a whole semester, like after a very long time. And then but they never really got to know like the truth, what exactly had happened, because she I don't know if she then at some point opened up to them, but she didn't. She just made up other stories. So, I have been thinking about this story and many others that I've had to deal with, especially in one-on-one coaching sessions. And I'm thinking to myself, how differently would this story have read if maybe the mom and the daughter had been talking openly about this topic, had been discussing? How differently would the story have been if the daughter had opened up quickly? It would definitely have been different. So it's important to open up. And even right now, as I'm speaking, I know that there are some teenagers out there who are going through something. Because you're a teen, you don't have experience about life. You may do some experiments only to realize that those experiments are really dangerous. But now you're already in the consequence. It's important to open up, hard as it may be. So you may be suffering alone. Could be an example of getting pregnant, just like I've talked about. It could be an example of you maybe getting into drugs. Maybe you realize now you are addicted to something. It's important to open up. And
it's never too late to start that conversation. For a teenager who's listening, it's never too late. I think it will save you time, it will save your life, and they will come, they will help. So it's important, as you're saying, to open up and not to suffer just by yourself. And the worst could happen.
So you want to prevent the worst from happening.
Yeah, true.
And whilst this is true for the teenager, then for the parent also it's important to listen. Don't assume that I know what you're going to say. No, you don't know. Just listen and try to hold your emotions. Hard as it may be, just hold your emotions so that you hear the rest of the story and you see how best you can help the child. Because sometimes I realize that something happens and then parents react emotionally. And because they're reacting emotionally, they might give a consequence that they believe to be very tough and stern, but will not do anything in achieving the desired result. So let's say, for example, you've discovered that your child is into pornography and then you just, out of anger, take the phone away from them. What will happen is maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks down the line, they're lonely, they don't have a phone, I think let me just give them back their phone. So now the emotions are gone, you're giving them back their phones, and there's nothing really that you've done. If it was an addiction, just because you took the phone away and you've given it back to them, they may still get hooked up and continue. So you haven't really solved. So sometimes it's important to chill when your emotion and try to take yourself off the situation. Have some time to think so that if you are going to give a punishment or a consequence, let it be deterrent enough. Because certain consequences or punishments that we give to kids, we will give them out of emotion and we feel good, but in terms of really achieving a correctional effect, there wouldn't be much of an effect there. So now, as I'm about to finish, there are things that I just want you as a teenager who's listening out there, because today we are on holiday and most teenagers are listening. I want you to just have a reflection of how your life has been in 2022. And I want you to make a choice to start your year, to start your 2023 differently. So I want you, first of all, to think about your academic life. How have you been doing? Are there any secrets? Are there any things that happened at school that are happening that you need to open up about? Maybe there are some subjects that you actually are struggling with, and you may have lied to your parent that I can't go for it because everyone else failed. That's what we'll all do. We'll justify. The highest did 55, so I didn't do that badly. So I want you to take a personal look at how you performed. Think about things that you need to change next year, and if there are things that you need to open up about, this is the time to, because maybe you're going to be writing your finals next year. If you really feel you need to repeat or you feel you need extra lessons and all that, this is the time to actually have the conversation with your dad and be proactive. Don't wait for them to come to you. Be the one who's going out there. Then the next thing that I want you to think about the decisions that you've been making with regards to dating, sex and dating. Are there any mistakes that you've made? Are you in situations? You may be in toxic relationship. In toxic relationships right now, there's no benefit in pretending that you're not dating and this is not happening when it's actually happening. It's better to address the big elephant in the house.
In the room.
In the room. So if you have been going through issues and maybe you've been suffering alone, maybe there's been sexual harassment within your relationship, you feel like your rights were violated, it's important to open up. Don't keep that to yourself, because the worst, like we said, could happen. So I want you to have an assessment and look at yourself in that regard. And then also assess yourself in terms of the communication that you've been having with your adults. Have you been playing your part in terms of just opening up, talking to them? Because sometimes we love to blame parents, but you may actually be the problem. And then maybe I could say the same to parents. How has your communication been like with your teenager? And are there areas that you feel like you need to improve? If they are, then this is the time to actually set goals and say, this is what I'm going to do differently as I go into 2023. And then the next thing, for teenagers, I want you to assess yourself and think about how resilient you've been, because as a teenager there are a lot of pressures that you face from every direction. There's media pressure, wanting to be like people that you see on media and all that. And on that, I've got this message for you. I want you to dare to be different, because what you need to realize, it's a no-brainer, but you may not have thought about it, is that for somebody to be famous, to be popular on social media, all they need are likes. Somebody may be popular because they're a musician and people love their music, but because they are that popular and they've got so many views, so many likes, it doesn't mean they are wise. You don't need to be wise in order to be a celebrity.
Yeah,
you just
and
need
to get
good, yeah.
to get the biggest following.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just because somebody has the biggest following doesn't mean that their advice on certain subjects is therefore better than your mom's advice because she only has 5 views.
Because I saw it on Ningi Ningi's page, and that's what she said. So she knows. No, she doesn't. She just has a lot of followers.
Yeah, just like a lot of influence.
Yeah.
And also think about the pressure that you've been getting. You know, there's something I call peer pressure, which is pressure that comes from boys or from girls. So you don't choose to be asked out. People are just going to come, and that pressure can also be overwhelming. Have you been able to deal with it? How is it? Do you need help? You can open up. There's peer pressure also that you may have been facing. There's hormone pressure, just liking people. I always have these conversations with the teenagers. It is very possible to like somebody that you actually know is not good for you, is dangerous for you. And then how do you deal with that? This is where opening up to an adult is important, because they've been through the road before and they could actually help you. How about in terms of addictions? Is there anything you're addicted to? Is there anything you feel you need help with? How about in terms of friendships? Are you happy with your friendships? Are they friends that you need to drop? So, and what kind of a friend have you been? So these are things that I want you to think about. And more than ever before, I want you to communicate. I want you to open up. There's a lot that you would benefit when you open up to the right people.
To the right people.
Yeah,
to the right people. To the right people.
Yeah. Thanks for emphasizing that. And to parents, please make time to just listen to your children and find out what they're going through.